Hey everybody, Larry Lawton here. I had a good video for you today. I'm going to be talking about the case of a DE agent who is going to prison.
The 48-year-old Irizarry pleaded guilty in September 2020 to 19 criminal counts, including bank fraud and diverting millions in drug proceeds.
For just over 12 years, same as what I did, for stealing, illegal prostitution.
He has implicated a list of former colleagues in Miami, accusing them of lining their pockets and falsifying records to pay for parties and overseas jaunts.
Messing around, going to games, and a whole bunch of other things we're going to get into. Now what's happening? That's why I wore this shirt. But before I get started, please check me out on YouTube member programs. Check me on Patreon. Please check out merch out, all this kind of stuff. Gangster Redemption. It's a great book and you're going to hear the truth there. There's one thing I do in this channel is tell the truth. Good, bad, and indifference, even against myself. Well, this case I'm going to be talking about is a guy named Jose. His actual name is Irizarry. He was a DE agent out of the Miami office. And you want to talk corruption going on?
Jose Irizarry says they called themselves Team America, a group of jet-setting, high-living federal agents and prosecutors who were supposed to be fighting the war on drugs.
This guy is spilling the beans that there's 3 other prosecutors, federal prosecutors involved, his partner, another agent, another 4 agents out of the Miami Group 4 DEA office. Now, if this shocks you to think that there's corruption in any of these agencies, then you've been living under a rock. I don't think anybody believes that all of this is pure. The DEA has about, 4,600 agents. There's gonna be bad apples, but at this level, wow. And I'll tell you what they really say. This agent is saying that the war on drugs is a war that can't be won.
DEA is a game. The drug war is a game. It was a very fun game that we were playing.
And it's a waste of money. And when you talk money, this guy, his area, lived like a king. And when I say a king, lavish dinners, he used to go to the Madrid soccer games, he used to go all over the world. He had lavish cars and stuff of that nature. What they did was they set up a scheme where they would go to all these places around the world. Wherever they wanted to go, they'd go around the world. And when they went around the world, they really didn't go for work. They went for play. He said 90% of the time, 90% of the time it was all bullshit. Well, we're gonna get into this in a pretty deep way right now, because he accuses a lot of people of doing a lot of things, and I don't know if it's true or not. I'll put it this way, a federal judge in Tampa who sentenced this guy believes it did happen, and the federal judge says, you guys better be looking into this. So I tend to believe the federal judge in this case. They have no bones to pick. They're on the bench forever. Prosecutors aren't, agents aren't. They can all get fired. They can all have to get retired or whatever else. Federal judge is on that bench forever. I often talk about the power of a federal judge. Well, when a federal judge is telling you that, you gotta look at that and say, okay, we did. Of course, the government does the thing it does best. Deny, deny, deny. You know, it's funny because I tell defendants, if something happens, you deny, deny, deny. Period. You deny, deny, deny. Now, let me tell you something. I found out about this case through 2 former DEA agents that actually called me. One is in South Florida right now, and the other one is in kind of Central Florida, more like the Boca Raton area, and a little bit north of Fort Lauderdale. And they both tell me, did you hear about what's going on? This guy's spilling the beans on everybody. Well, if that even surprises you, then you've been living under a rock, what I say. First of all, my shirt says it all. 3 can keep a secret if 2 are dead. Simple as that. Meaning, there's no secrets. These guys, something happens in one part of their life and they'll tell on the other part of their life. They're not criminals in the sense that I know who a criminal was. Just not. They are people working off the government dime. Now, this happened back in 2020, 2021. Jason Chavez ran the investigation, not for Congress. He was part of on the committee, and he said these people need to be fired. So many people got, and nothing happened to him. There's only one guy right now, and this is Jose Irizarry, and he gets it's over 144 months, which I know that sounds, oh, okay, it's months. No. That's 12 years. It's the same thing, exactly the same thing that happened to me. Now, this guy, Azaria, spilled the beans before he went into federal prison Miami. That's his prison he's going to. Now, federal prison Miami is a pretty sweet joint. I would have liked to see, listen, this didn't surprise me, so it's not like people can say, oh, I hate that guy because he did this. I hate it. You know, want the truth? I think most people would do what he did. And I know a lot of people are going to say right now, I would never do that, Larry. And that's about integrity. That's about everything. You know, when you're fighting a war that you know can't be won, people die, and it's all bullshit for headlines for an agency that we don't need. And I'm going to get into that here in a minute because I just had this debate, and I think I even mentioned it on one of my shows. You cannot win the war on drugs. So what do? They don't even fight it. They pretty much lay down and they go places. Now, they had a couple of divisions. They have one division that launders money.
For every dollar we laundered, we had to seize 2. If not, we shut the operation down.
Yes, the federal government launders money for the cartels. Now, why they do that is threefold.
You launder 100,000 and you can figure out who dropped off the money. You work that person higher up. So the goal was to generate targets, seizures, and prosecutions.
One, they can get information, it goes up, they can subpoena bank records. Another reason is they can find out where it goes to, they can track it a little bit better, and they're gonna end up getting more convictions because there's more people in the line there. I get it, but I think it's just bullshit, and here's what I mean. They know, the United States government knows, we cannot win the war on drugs. Pablo Escobar goes to prison. Do you think America had any less drugs? Absolutely not. The little guy, El Chapo, goes to prison. Do we have any less drugs? Ochoas, who this guy dealt with, Escobar and Ochoa and those guys, that's another mega big drug dealers. Do you think anything stops? There's always somebody to put in position, or however they do it, that's gonna, there's too much money involved. They're gonna take over. They're gonna want to keep this money train going. When you're dealing with billions and billions of dollars, we know what happens. Look what happened with Epstein, who was in the federal prison system in Manhattan. He winds up dead before he can spill the beans on a lot of people. You know why? Because he would have spilled the beans on a lot of billionaires. You hear what I said? The B word, billionaires. Well, how this case worked was, when this guy Azaria gets caught, he's kind of doing his time, but he starts talking. And here's why they start talking. First of all, before you get sentenced, and they say it right in the paperwork, that he wanted what they call a 5K1. A 5K1 is what they call a downward departure in the Federal Bureau of Prisons. So this guy's going to get a departure he's asking for a departure from the judge because he's going to spill the beans. Here's where I think this guy's got a big, difficult problem. Now, it doesn't say that he got the departure. Was he facing more time? I don't know. Listen, he's still doing 12 years. So I'm not sure if he's just a dumb guy, but here's what happens. He is accusing federal prosecutors.
At least 3 current and former federal prosecutors accused by Irizarry have faced questioning in the ongoing probe.
Who are the ones who put in the paperwork for a person's 5K1 and to get out of prison. But this guy is accusing 3 federal prosecutors and numerous agents of being in on the scam. Now, if the government doesn't know this is going on, then the government is just incompetent. Obviously, the war on drugs, and I'm going to blame President Reagan on that. The war on drugs is the biggest waste of money the United States has ever seen. A waste of time, effort, lives, everything. They've proved it doesn't do anything. It's just a fucking another government agency that went out of whack. Let me ask you people a question out there, and I really want an answer maybe in the comments. Why do we need so many alphabet organizations? The DEA, the ATF, the FBI, the CIA, the NSA, the NCIS. All of these agencies are, I call them duplicate agencies. How about alcohol, tobacco, and firearms and the DEA? Drug Enforcement Administration, alcohol, tobacco, and firearms, ATF. First of all, those are the things most people in this country realize. Why do we need an agency? Alcohol, tobacco, and firearms. Do we really think that's such bad stuff that we need agencies and heads of departments and cabinet members or the people who work under the Justice Department? Do we need law enforcement? Absolutely. As a person who's a libertarian, I believe in law enforcement. I believe we need the Navy to clear the shipping lanes. I think the federal government has got out of whack in a big way, and I think everybody else believes that as well. Why do we need the DEA, Drug Enforcement Administration? Do we really need them? They haven't produced anything in all the years they were formed. So, and people are gonna say, come on, lad, they have. You know, how bad would it be if they didn't have the DEA? Well, according to this, they're not even handling 10% of their cases. He said over 90% of their cases, 90% are bullshit.
Former Air Marshal and Border Patrol agent claims as many as 90% of his group's work trips were bogus.
Typical trip we would justify going.
In other words, they didn't do anything. 90% of the cases, they went to an area and set up a meeting with a so-called informant. So let's get it straight of what I believe. This doesn't shock me. I think it's going on all over. The government always comes out and says, no, he's the rogue agent and stuff. Well, they're just covering your ass. It's kind of like the BOP scandal in United States Penitentiary, Atlanta. What do? They empty the prison of all inmates and they transfer most of the people. When they said there was 37% of corruption, 37%. More than 1 out of 3 people are corrupt, and to a point of bringing drugs in or beating people, just total corrupt. They were letting people out. There's a number of things they were doing in the Atlanta thing. In fact, Congress did a report on that, the Inspector General, and they said Atlanta was not only a threat, the city of Atlanta, it was a threat to Georgia. No, not just Georgia. It was a threat to the southeast of the United States of America. When you think of that, you have to start saying, whoa, I mean, something's that big of a threat. That means you really fucking dropped the ball, America. Well, in this case, here's what I think is gonna happen. This young man's gonna go to prison. He's 48 years old. He's a Puerto Rican. He was in San Jose. That's prison, I guess they arrested him and put him in. He was processed in that prison. Well, he's back in America and he was assigned Miami, FCI Miami. Sweet, sweet joint. FCI Miami is a medium security institution, low to medium. It's known as a pretty good place. This guy's not gonna run into much. He is gonna run into this part. Guards are not gonna like him because he's squealing on his own people. Inmates already know this guy's a scumbag. Who's he gonna go to? The prosecutors on his case, whether they believe or not, are not gonna go after him because he's going after 3 of their fellow colleagues, and that's just a tribalism mentality we live in. I gotta get with my tribe and I gotta feel safe. Well, I think that's crazy because when we can't show the public that we are better than them, whatever that better is, people lose confidence in you. We already should have lost. We should have lost confidence in these agencies so long ago that you guys and anybody young watching this show shouldn't even have known who they were. And I love the pushback, but what are you gonna do with the drugs coming in? They're killing people. It's called choices, people. Listen to me. If you want drugs, you're gonna get drugs. Period. If you want drugs, you're gonna get drugs. If you want help, you can get help too. I do a lot of that. I help a lot of people. I counsel people. I get people who are addicts and I go to some of these places and I start talking to them and I resonate with them, and some of them just get away because I don't judge them. I won't judge them at all, as I don't think anybody should. How can we criminalize a addiction? People getting addicted, and they could be addicted by a prescription drug and then they have to go to the street drug. So what is that? It's still just an addiction. Now, is he committing a crime besides the taking or the selling of drugs? If he's not, I have a hard time putting people in prison for this. I really do. And I think what's gonna happen to this guy in prison, no matter what prison, Miami, he is gonna have to really walk on eggshells to begin with. It's a sweet joint, but you know, people get jealous. It looks like he might be able to handle himself. I'm sure he went to self-defense courses. I'm sure he did a lot of stuff with the DEA so he could, you know, fight criminals. I love that, the criminal aspect of it. But I don't know how he's gonna do after X amount of time. Here's exactly what he's going to do in the immediate future. You have what they call a 5K1 is what they call pre-sentencing. Then you have a post-downward departure called Rule 35. Here's how that works. They give this guy 12 years in prison, and then they come to him afterwards and say, listen, you're going to want to do this whole 12, it's done. I walk out of this room, you're going to do the whole 12 and you can't call me back. Oh, the guy's a fucking snitch, he's a cop anyway. And what does he do? He fucking is going to try to get information on other people in that jail. And whatever he gets, they call that a downward, they file a Rule 35 to the judge. And he ends up, giving this person a downward departure. I have a hard time in this one because I just think he fucked over so many prosecutors. But I really give this guy credit because he's exposed them. Not many people believed it was the prosecutors. Kamala Harris, our president, she was a former prosecutor. What she did was horrific with getting the information on DNA and not releasing the people. So are they capable of doing bad things? Absolutely, just as much as Larry Lawton was capable of robbing a jewelry store. They are capable and they walk around like they're innocent and they're the big shots and everybody else. And they're, in fact, nothing but one part of a criminal enterprise. That's all they are, is one part of a criminal enterprise. I think this man, I'm gonna have to follow this case because at what point is harassment gonna win this case? Because I think he's gonna get harassed, not just by guards. I think he's gonna be investigated, pulled out, maybe put on a bus somewhere, which is what they call diesel therapy. Maybe the plane go around a country and then they put him back in there and it was a mistake or whatever they call it, it doesn't matter. I think that's what's gonna happen in this case personally. They had to take this case from Miami and they brought it to Tampa, which is the middle district of Florida. The southern district of Florida goes Miami, Fort Lauderdale. I think it goes halfway, or it might, I think just up to Naples. If the case was so serious that they had to what they call switch venues, and that's very rare. You don't see that happen often, but it did here. But the denials of the federal people shouldn't shock you. I always ask law enforcement to come on my show. I want to talk to them how they hire, how they fire, what's a fireable offense in the police department. Next time I have chief of police right here, I'm gonna do that. I am gonna open his world up and ask the questions that nobody wants to ask. How many people are just there to be there? Or every one of them have a vital job? I know he's gonna say yes. But when you see a cop sitting in a lobby just because it might be a threat to that place, I don't think that's the proper way to spend funds. That's just me. And everybody has their opinion on how they should spend funds. I get so upset because I think of the war on drugs, how this is just really an escalation on the war of drugs. When I grew up, it was hard to find certain things. You can get it, but it was hard to find certain things. I'm talking at young ages, 12 years old, 13 years old. And I didn't do drugs. I was lured to the mob life, but I didn't do drugs per se. I did some. I look at drugs today as just a drink. And when you look at things like that, I always think you have a better outlook. I was talking to somebody the other night, and they were talking, I asked him if I was a libertarian. I said, yes. And he says, why are you such a libertarian? I says, because both parties suck. Libertarian's not much better, but I believe in their platform, which is somewhat socially conservative. Don't spend my money stupidly. ATF, DEA, NSA, FBI. Do we need one agency? Absolutely. You can't have one agency run all this shit and have divisions. I think the budget would go down. We wouldn't be as top heavy we are in this country. That's my opinion. But understanding this case and what I know of this case, he wants to spill the beans and he named names. How aggressively is the FBI going to go after these people or some other small agency? I don't buy it. I think they're going to be talked out of it, for the will of the party. That's that new saying now. For the will of the party, let's just let them all be assholes and they all killed the country. But we got to pardon them for the will of the country. I don't believe that is the will of the country. So, what do you think is going to happen to this agent? He is going to federal prison. He is sentenced to 144 months. I hope I opened your eyes to this case. I really want you to research and go on Google and just type in DEA agent arrested in Brevard for corruption. Just as a reminder, I am doing Sunday's video on the ship. We have our company cruise, and I don't mean company for us, it's fans and everybody coming on the cruise from Friday to Monday. I got a couple that won the free cruise giveaway and fly in from Atlanta, and they're flying into Melbourne Airport. They're gonna be driven to the ship and back. That is the deal, and I'm very happy for them. I'm looking forward to meeting him too. Obviously, he bought cigars. We got the announcement today that the cigars are here. So next week, cigars start going out. Period. If you made an order, your cigar is going out next week. Letting you know. Which is pretty exciting because we're also going to be doing some commercials. We're going to be doing some promo videos for the cigar, and I hope you check them out, and I hope you like them, and I hope you understand how much effort we're putting into this. Have a great day, everybody. Stay safe, make good choices. Hit that notification. Please subscribe. See you Sunday.